She sent the report on Thursday. It took 3 weeks to build, 2 rounds of revisions. One weekend she didn't get back. She knew it was the strongest work she'd done since joining the company, the kind of analysis that makes someone's name land differently in a room. Her manager presented it on Friday. She wasn't invited to the meeting. She found out from a colleague who told her that her manager had walked through every slide with the kind of confidence that comes from having built something yourself. The VP had said it was exactly what they needed. Her manager had said thank you. Nobody mentioned her name. If you've been in some version of that room, or more accurately, not in it, this video is for you. Because what happened to her isn't a personality problem. It isn't a management-style quirk. And it is not going to fix itself. It's a system. And once you understand how the system works, you stop waiting for it to change and you start changing what you can control. Here's what most people believe about this situation. They believe it's accidental, that their manager is busy or forgetful, or just doesn't think to credit people by name in high-stakes meetings. They give the benefit of the doubt once, twice, 3 times. They tell themselves it doesn't matter as long as the work is good. That eventually, someone will notice who's actually producing what. That belief is costing them more than they know. Because credit in an organization doesn't flow automatically to the person who did the work. It flows to the person who was in the room when the work was discussed. And your manager is in that room. You are not. Every time your work gets presented without your name attached, 2 things happen simultaneously. The work builds your manager's reputation, and your contribution, the hours, the thinking, the quality, gets absorbed into their track record instead of yours. This isn't always malicious. That's the part that makes it so hard to address. Sometimes it's strategic. A manager who understands that visibility is currency and has decided to spend yours. Sometimes it's just the path of least resistance. Nobody asks who built the deck, so nobody says. But the impact on your career is identical either way. Your work is building someone else's future. Here's what's actually happening underneath the surface, the mechanism most employees never see. Your manager has relationships above them that you don't have access to. They speak the language of the level above them. They are in the rooms where your name could be introduced, where your reputation could be built. And instead, their presence in those rooms is being reinforced by your output. Every deliverable you produce that reaches leadership without your name is a missed opportunity to build your professional narrative at the level where decisions about your career actually get made. And the longer this pattern runs, the more firmly your manager becomes associated with the work you are producing, while you remain associated only with the level you're currently at. Here's the part the company lets happen. Organizations don't have a mechanism that automatically credits work to its origin. There's no system that tracks who built what and surfaces that information to the right people. The organization benefits from the work getting done. It doesn't need to know who specifically did it. And as long as the work keeps coming, as long as you keep producing, there's no structural incentive for anyone above your manager to ask where it came from. Your manager is not being monitored for attribution. Nobody is checking, nobody is going to catch this and correct it on your behalf, which means you are the only person who can change it. Let me tell you about a woman named Priya. Priya was a data analyst at a tech company. Sharp, methodical, the person her team relied on when the numbers needed to mean something. For 2 years, she produced quarterly performance analyses that her manager, a director named Robert, presented to the VP of Operations every quarter. Robert always did a thorough job presenting. He understood the work. He could answer questions about it. He just consistently presented it as our analysis, the team's work, which in context meant his team's work, which in the room meant his work. At the end of Priya's 2nd year, Robert was promoted to senior director. 3 months later, Priya applied for a director role on another team. She had 2 years of work that was directly relevant to the position. She had outcomes she could point to. She went into the interview confident. The hiring manager, the same VP who had received Robert's quarterly presentations for 2 years, didn't recognize her name. She had built 2 years of excellent work. None of it had built her reputation. All of it had built Robert's. She didn't get the role. The person who did get it had less relevant experience and a better-known name. Priya came to understand something in the months that followed that changed how she approached every professional relationship afterward. Competence is not self-announcing. Your work does not speak for itself in rooms you are not in, and if you are not actively building the connection between your name and your output in the minds of the people who make decisions, someone else will fill that gap, not always intentionally, just by being present when you aren't. So what do you actually do? The first move is to attach your name to your work before it leaves your hands. Not aggressively, not in a way that creates friction, just specifically. When you send a report, put your name on it, in the document itself, not just in the email signature. When you complete an analysis, include a cover note that summarizes your methodology and findings in your own words. When you deliver a presentation deck, make sure your name appears somewhere in the file that will be opened in the meeting. These aren't political maneuvers. They're professional basics that most people skip because nobody ever told them they mattered. They matter. Every piece of work that carries your name into a room you weren't invited to is working on your behalf while you're not there. The second move is to create visibility that doesn't depend on your manager. Build relationships above your manager's level. Not as a power play, genuinely. Find reasons to interact with senior stakeholders. Ask if you can present sections of your own work in team reviews. Volunteer for cross-functional projects where your contributions are seen by people outside your immediate chain. Send updates on your work directly to the people whose decisions it affects. When the VP knows your name independently of your manager's ability to absorb your credit is significantly diminished. They cannot present your work as generically theirs in a room where someone knows it came from you specifically. The third move is to have the conversation directly. This is the one most people avoid. And avoiding it is a choice, just not a neutral one. The conversation doesn't have to be accusatory. It doesn't require naming the pattern explicitly or putting your manager on the defensive. It can be as simple as, "I'd love to be in the room when we present to the VP. I think it would help me understand how our work is being received at that level and strengthen what I produce going forward." That framing is honest, professional, and impossible to reasonably deny. It also communicates, without stating it, that you understand the value of that room and you intend to be in it. If they say yes, you're in the room. If they say no without a clear reason, that's information too. Information about where you stand and what your options are. The fourth move, and this is the one that changes the entire dynamic, is to make yourself known for the thing you produce before it gets presented. Send a brief preview to relevant stakeholders before the formal meeting. Reference your work in Slack or email in ways that establish your authorship before the presentation happens. Talk about what you're building in contexts where senior people are listening, not boasting, just reporting. The goal is for the people in that room to already associate the work with your name before your manager stands up to present it. When that association exists, credit doesn't need to be assigned. It's already attributed. Here's what all 4 of these moves have in common. None of them require your manager to change. None of them depend on the organization suddenly deciding to track attribution. None of them involve confrontation, HR, or any form of escalation that puts your position at risk. They are all ways of building your professional narrative independently of the person who currently controls your access to the rooms that matter. Because the real problem isn't your manager. The real problem is that your visibility has been running through one channel, and that channel has been absorbing what should have been reaching the people above it. Widen the channels. Build more of them. Make your name legible to more people at more levels through your own actions before someone else's actions define it for you. She found out what happened in that Friday meeting from her colleague. She went home that weekend and wrote down every project she had produced in the past 18 months, the outcomes, the impact, the stakeholders who benefited from the work. Then she spent the next 3 months making sure those stakeholders knew who had produced it. Not by complaining about her manager, not by confronting what had happened, by showing up in conversations, on projects, in rooms she hadn't been invited into before, and being exactly as good there as she had been at her desk. 18 months later, she was promoted, not by her manager, by a director who had watched her show up consistently in the places that mattered and had decided independently that she belonged at the next level. Her manager was not consulted in that decision. Your work is excellent. The question was never whether you're good enough. The question is whether the right people know it yet. That part is yours to build. Start building it.